in this lesson helping old school DJs return to the craft of DJing. Following on from our first lesson on the sync button and what that means, we're looking at the gear, how it's changed and what you need to know to get started again in DJing today. At the end of this, I'm going to give you 3 recommendations and 1 strong recommendation of what you should go and drop your cash on now to get back into this hobby. However, in order to get to that recommendation, you need to understand what's happened in the meantime. So let's go back in time. 15 or 20 years. So of course you remember the change from record decks to CDJs, right? Everyone remembers that. CD wallets they became the norm everywhere. However, at that point, interesting things were happening outside of the Pro DJ booth, because outside of the Pro DJ booth, controllerism was taking off. It was a term popularized by Ian Golden on the DJ Tech Tools blog. And controllerism was this whole scene that built around DJ software. It's virtual, it wasn't real decks, it was pretend decks inside your computer where you put MP3s onto those decks and you mixed with a mouse and a keyboard. Now, controllerism came out of the idea that it's probably better to use a DJ controller, as they became known, rather than the mouse and keyboard to control that. So at this stage, there was little, cool, cheap boxes that you could plug into DJ software on your laptop that you already owned and do pretty much everything that you could do on the Pro DJ gear for an absolute fraction of the price. And indeed, the software quickly, as computers became more powerful and the software engineers became better, pulled way ahead. Things like loops and multiple hot cues, then key sync, then beat sync, of course, then beat grids, and later on things like stems, which have only arrived in the last few years. This all came out of the controllerism world. It didn't come from the Pro DJ world, because while all that was happening in controllerism, and by the way, controllerism, the gear got a lot better. In the beginning, you needed to have a DJ controller box. You also needed an audio interface that gave you enough outputs for your headphones and for the crowd and all that. That kind of all got simpler, it all got more powerful, it all got put into one box that did all that stuff for you, which is how it's been ever since. In the Pro DJ world, the gear kind of went from CD wallets to USBs. Again, you might have clocked that happened, and then it kind of slowly started keeping half an eye on what was going on over in controllerism and saying, actually, that looks pretty good. We quite like the look of that. In the last video, we talked about how the sync button turned up on Pro Gear all of a sudden back then. And other things started to trickle across as well. More hot cues, better looping and save looping and things like this. And then slowly, the Pro DJ world and the gear in the Pro DJ world has caught up with the gear in the controllerism world. Slowly, it's not quite there yet, and it will probably never be there, because software is easier to engineer and easier to add new things to than hardware. And also, DJs in the Pro booth don't really like change. They like stuff to carry on the way it always has, because ultimately it's a job and they just want it to do what it's always done. However, here's the really key thing to get your head around. When Pioneer DJ launched a device called the DJJ-1000, it kind of changed everything, because this finally was a DJ controller. This was from the software world. This is from that world that was happening outside the DJ booth. Finally, there was a DJ controller that looked and felt like using Pro DJ gear. Because at the time, the 2000 Nexus and Nexus 2 players and the DJM-900 mixer, when you look at them against the DJJ-1000, which cost a fraction of the price, they're pretty similar. And so now we see convergence. Since then, by the way, things have just got even closer. And so we're going to move on to our recommendations in a minute. But there's one other thing that is worth understanding here. As soon as the Pro DJ gear started to use USB drives, at the beginning, DJs just put all their music on a USB drive and plugged it in. But very quickly, you began to get features, and again, I'm talking about things like sync, where if you really wanted to use them properly on the Pro gear, you had to use a piece of software on your computer to analyze that music first before you put it on the USB drive. Now, if you're analyzing the music, that piece of software is on a laptop. And Pioneer DJ, now called Alpha Theta, had the idea of making it the same piece of software that you use when you plug a DJ controller in. So now we've got Pro DJs away from laptops, away from all that stuff, in their world with their USB drives, using features which are quite similar to the stuff that's on laptops. And they've had to use the software anyway to make all that work properly. That's one half of the DJ world. The other half of the DJ world, you've got people who wrote software, made boxes to control it, where the boxes looked more and more like Pro Gear, and they're using the same piece of software. It's just that they keep the software with them when they're performing. So you can see how these worlds have got closer and closer and closer together, to the point now when pretty much all top-end DJ gear can work with or without the laptop plugged in, and it's both worlds together. So that brings us bang up to date. If you're an old school DJ coming back to the world of DJing, you now know everything that's happened in the gear since you've been, well, not quite everything since you've been away. I haven't touched on digital vinyl, Serato. I haven't had time to look at modular and hybrid DJing that DJ producer types love with software like Ableton and Traktor. And I've not gone near iPad and phone DJing, where Algorithm's DJ Pro dominates. Also, as you'll see in these recommendations, for the video here, I've stuck to what is by far the biggest brand, which is Pioneer DJ, Alpha Theta, Rekordbox. It's all the same people. Seriously, not because I particularly love them, but just because they're the one most people choose. And we're trying to keep it simple here. If you do want to look at the best hardware for all the different systems out there across all the brands, just grab our free gear guide from the join link. But even if you're sticking to what I'm covering here, and I have simplified it, there are still decisions to make. After all, if you can plug your laptop into even Pro Gear nowadays and DJ that way, if you can get home gear that doesn't need a laptop anymore, even though actually both systems kind of do, and if you can get kit that costs like $300 all the way up to 10,000 plus, well, what the hell should you buy to get back into this hobby? I've narrowed it down to 3 choices for you. If you want a piece of DJ gear which can do everything, it can do the stuff that pro DJs do in the booth miles away from their laptop, it can do the stuff that DJs do at home where they've got their laptop plugged in with their whole catalogue there and the quick search and all the new features and all that. If you want one piece of gear that's very happy in both of those worlds, then you want the XDJ-AZ. This piece of gear uses the software which bridges both worlds, and it can happily work in either of those worlds. Even more than that, it just feels like pro DJ gear whichever way you're using it. There's no difference to the stuff you find when you go and play in a club on this gear. If you are into this idea, but actually you'd rather save quite a bit of money, and you're quite happy using your laptop when you DJ, you're quite happy having your laptop with you, you know, you understand the controller world, and that's the world that you're fine with, but you do want that club feel to your gear, then the DDJ Flex 10 is the one to go for. It's the spiritual successor to the DDJ 1000 that changed everything that we looked at earlier. But this surprises DJs. However, this is the advice that I give nearly all returning DJs when they want a piece of gear to get back into this with. And it's this piece of gear here, the Pioneer DJ DDJ Flex 4. There's lots of entry-level controllers that cost you a couple of $100, $300 like this one, but this one wins for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it works with Rekordbox, which is the same software that pro DJs use to prepare their DJ sets to play in the pro DJ booth, and that means that across your DJ career, you'll never need to switch software should you want to use that standalone gear, should you want to play in a pro booth. It's the same platform. But it also works with Serato, the other very big piece of DJ software out there. Moreover, it's laid out just like club gear. You've got the club standard looping at the top. You've got a slimmed down version of where you would find the effects in the club, and they work the same way. And this mixer is exactly the same layout as a club mixer. So look, the reason I'm recommending this is that this unit here is everything you need and more. You won't outgrow it very quickly. If you're a bit embarrassed by how big it is, just buy yourself a hard flight case and stick it in it, and then it'll suddenly look professional. But honestly, it's got all you need. It sounds fine. And if you decide that DJing isn't for you, and it does happen, you know, you've scratched the itch again and you think, you know what, maybe not, you can sell it for pretty much what you bought it for. And when you do upgrade to something else, you're probably going to want to keep it, not least because any DJ worth their salt needs a backup system. For all those reasons, I think that spending less money now on something like a Flex 4, if you're coming back into DJing, is the right thing to do. 2 more things for you. Number 1, if I haven't covered something you need to know, please ask us underneath. And if you've returned to DJing, let me know what you're using and why you chose the gear you're using. It's lovely to hear this stuff. Secondly, as a DJ school, one of the types of DJs that we find we really help a lot is people just like you, is people returning to DJing. This is a free series that helps you understand all the things that have been going on since you were away. But once you are back, do take a look at our all access training. It is the training to be by your side as you rediscover this hobby. There is a link on the screen now, and also you can grab that URL to go and find the information you need to decide which version of all access is right to help you get back into this fantastic hobby that we all love. Meanwhile, for me, Phil, here in the studio, get good, get out there once more and make the moments. See you next time. Bye.